welcome to the morning show. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I'm so happy to welcome NEET, Northern Essex Elder Transport. We have their administrator, Dori Sawyer, is here, and one of their longtime volunteer drivers, Greg Jablonski. So first of all, Dori, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time to visit the show.
Thank you very much, Mary, for having us. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, and Greg, thank you as well for taking time to come here.
Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Oh, I'm so happy to do so and to make sure that people know about NEET, both people who might want to drive for NEET and people who might not know about your services and might be eligible for critically important transportation. Well, Dori, let's start with you. I was hoping that you could tell us the origin story of NEET. You know, when and why was it founded, and whom do you serve, and why is this service so important?
Okay. It's a multi-level question that you're asking,
It
obviously.
is.
In 1981, there was a group of 14 councils on aging across the Merrimack Valley that realized that they needed better transportation options for their senior citizens, and decided to form a collaboration, a nonprofit, to provide non-urgent medical transportation to their older adults over 60, the age of 60. So these 14 came together. They formed a board of directors, and we work with councils on aging to schedule and support the transportation needs of those communities. We are one of the transportation options. There are others as well. However, many of the communities don't have vans, or they use their vans for other purposes, and so we provide transportation for those communities. So for 41 years, NEET has driven over 2.9 million miles.
Whoa.
Made 200,000 trips.
Oh my goodness, that's
and
impressive.
Our wonderful volunteer drivers like Greg have donated over 250,000 hours of service to the communities that we serve. You had asked why this service is so important.
Yeah.
So the AARP and the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center estimated that the population of older Americans, 65 plus, is expected to double by 2040.
Okay.
Many of those individuals want to age in place.
Yeah, of
meaning
course.
that they want to stay at home as long as they possibly can. In addition, they estimate that 1 in 5 adults, older adults, 65 older, no longer drives for various reasons.
Yeah.
It makes transportation a very important, critical piece of the puzzle to keep these older Americans in their homes and aging well in place. And so NEET is first and foremost the reason why this is important. I would say the second reason is that we've become such an auto-centric community, all of the communities that we serve.
Yeah.
And we've built up, these Americans are looking for safe, convenient, affordable, and flexible methods of transportation.
Yeah.
So NEET provides all of that. We don't charge for our services. Our drivers meet the riders at their homes, allowing them to drive to their appointments, return at a prearranged time to pick them up, and return back to their home. And we want to make sure that that's all done in a safe manner. In addition, if a person needs a pharmacy stop on the way home or a quick stop by the grocery store, many of our drivers allow that flexibility, which isn't available through other mechanisms. Lastly, I would submit that the reason the NEET program works so well is that there's a lack of human connection, especially given the pandemic and what we faced. It's brought about fear and anxiousness in many older adults. And having that one-on-one connection with a driver. Our volunteers are compassionate and graceful people, and they bring much more than a medical ride, a ride to a medical appointment. They bring that sense of calmness, kindness, and connection to another human being. So I think for all of those reasons, NEET is extraordinarily important and very critical in the growing world that we face in the age population.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's an interesting history because it sounds as though it was, you know, citizen-driven, really from the grassroots building up.
Yes.
People, you know, visionary people at the time saw the need and anticipated that it would be a growing need, and they did something. Let's start an organization.
Yes. Right.
And gosh, what an impressive history. That's a massive number of miles driven and number of appointments and number of lives helped.
Yes.
Because who doesn't want to age at home, of
Right.
course, much
Right.
better than people are scared, of course, of being institutionalized in some way. And so what an important service. The people who started NEET, in other words, really were onto something. And it sounds as though they built a very effective, capable, and responsive organization. Important for all the reasons that you've just so eloquently laid out. So it's a wonderful origin story. I'm glad I asked you.
Thanks. Thanks for asking.
Well, Dori, you're the administrator.
Yes.
What made you decide to join the organization? And tell us about the roles that you play for them.
Okay. Well, what's interesting is that 23 years ago, I ended up driving for NEET.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, gosh,
My
okay.
youngest child was a baby. I was a stay-at-home mom for the first time, and I found the ad in the paper, and I said, I want to drive for NEET. I think this
No
is
kidding.
perfect. I have an affinity for older adults, and I think this is going to be perfect for my child as well, to give her that exposure.
Yeah.
And it was acceptable at that time for me to put her in the car,
Yeah.
pick up my riders and bring them to their medical appointments, and we would go into their medical appointments with them. So for me, this is a full circle opportunity.
I'll say, yeah.
That I get to be the one to administer this wonderful program, critical program that I drove for 23 years ago. And I will mention that I still drive every once in a while in a pinch, because again, that anxiety and fear that our riders have is still there, and I get calls almost on a daily basis saying, I need to get to my appointment, can you help me?
Because people know you.
people
because
know
they,
me,
yeah, they have a
and
track record
yes,
with
we have
you.
a track record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that maybe the 23 or 24-year-old now probably doesn't still accompany you.
She does not. Though she would like to.
But those memories are there.
Those memories are still there, and it made her a social activist.
Oh, my
in that
gosh.
she actually donates her, volunteers her time in local nursing homes.
What a great outcome.
She's
sort
a
of.
singer, so she actually
No kidding.
works with a lot of local nursing homes. So.
Oh, that's a wonderful story.
Thank you, thank you. And you had also asked what I do for them.
Yes, yeah.
The administrative arm of NEET is really a little bit different than other opportunities that I've had in the past. I handle all of the recruitment, training, and retention of our volunteers. We handle the mileage reimbursement. We do provide a 55-cent a mile reimbursement.
Yeah.
I manage the NEET staff in the office. I work with a lovely woman, Anne, who is a wonderful program coordinator. She does our bookkeeping, our website management, and does all the training for our councils on aging when they have new employees on our software. I'll talk about software in a little bit.
Okay.
I also handle all the day-to-day issues that come up with dealing with different constituents that we represent and support. Finally, I do all the grant writing and fundraising for our organization, and I'm responsible for the compliance that I need to do with the state and federal funding that we receive. So it's a big job, but
It's a huge job.
I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, you do.
But I
Yeah.
definitely love doing what I do.
Wonderful. And yeah, it's a big job because you're multitasking. It sounds to me a lot. Different parts of your brain coming into play.
Absolutely.
But it sounds as though, Dori, you're really perfectly positioned because you know the organization so well because you were a driver. That's how you started. And so you've been there, for a long time and you know what the drivers do, you know what the needs of your constituents are. And so you're positioned to really understand what the organization needs as you do your administrative work. So it sounds like they're lucky that you were a keeper.
I'm actually fortunate. I get to work with some really special individuals like Greg who are just caring, compassionate, wonderful people, and it's nice to see that in the world that we live in.
Yeah. And we're going to talk with Greg about his experience as a driver, but before we do that, I want to return to something you talked a little bit about in the beginning, and that's the impact that the pandemic has had on NEET. So, please tell us, how did the pandemic impact both riders and drivers for NEET?
Well, I would say that the pandemic impacted a lot, right, for everyone.
Yeah.
I think for an older American, older adult, it instilled this fear and anxiety about leaving their homes.
Yeah.
And it made them disconnected from their communities.
Yeah.
So we were closed for 5 months.
Completely shut down.
Completely shut down
Yeah.
during the 2020 period of time.
Yeah.
And at that point, we had quite a few volunteers. In fact, our volunteer base got severely eroded from the pandemic.
I'll
Many
bet,
of our
yeah.
volunteers did not return to drive.
Yeah.
In early 2021, we saw a little blip in the screen where we had some new volunteers join us to help with the vaccination appointments and so forth. Many of those volunteers weren't working at the time, and so
Yeah.
they came on board to work.
Yeah.
Many of them have returned to work, so they've left.
Yeah.
So we've seen a large increase in the number of riders now because they're, we're coming out of the pandemic, and yet the volunteer numbers are increasing very slowly, very, very slowly. It can be attributed to a lot of things. First of all, natural attrition.
Yeah.
Most of our drivers are older themselves, so they're aging out of the program. Inflation has greatly impacted us,
Yeah.
the cost of gas and car maintenance, and also just a national apathy toward volunteerism, which I don't understand, but could be attributed to the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
People are thinking life is too short, maybe they spend
Yeah.
more time with their family and friends. But I'm always looking for innovative and creative ways to find new volunteers, this being one of them.
Yeah, sure.
Getting the word out.
Yeah.
Also making sure that potential riders know that we have a service available to them.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a twofold process for
Yeah.
us.
Absolutely.
Acquiring volunteers and also making sure our aged population knows that we are there.
Right.
But-
Absolutely. Both of which are critically
Both of which
important
are
for the work
important.
that you do.
Yes.
Well, Greg, let's talk with you a bit then about driving. I clearly need to seek new volunteers, and perhaps you could tell us what made you sign up, and how long have you been driving folks?
I've been doing this for about 3 years, and what made me do this was it was actually being exposed to a guy that I used to play golf with, who was an older gentleman who drove Meals on Wheels down in the Trenton,
Oh.
New Jersey area. And I really noticed how important doing that was to him. And I thought, when I get the opportunity to try to give back, I'm going to do that. And it presented itself in a meeting I was attending with Dori's right-hand person, Ann. And I struck up a conversation with her, and they were looking for volunteer drivers. And I said, well, Ann, just give me a call. I'm available anytime, because I was kind of in between jobs at the time. And she said, okay, well, we will call you. And lo and behold, she did. And I started to drive for NEET. What struck me when I did it was, I knew that I would be helping these people by giving them rides to their appointments. But the social part of it, I didn't expect. And I tried to make it a good experience for them. In other words, whenever someone gets in the car with me, I'll start a conversation off,
Yeah.
and we'll find a common ground and something to talk about.
Yeah.
Happens every time. I mean, every time, 100% of the time. And they get a lot out of it. They really enjoy the conversation, and they enjoy the
Yeah.
interaction. But what I didn't expect was what I would get out of it. So I get a really great, social interaction. I get some recipes. I get, ideas on different things, gardening and all kinds of different
Yeah.
things.
Cookies at Christmas time.
But if you think about the situation, these are folks that have lived a lifetime and have,
Yes.
a lifetime of really positive experiences.
Yeah.
And they want to share. And I'm a good listener, thankfully. Right, dear? But I think, if you just take a chance, which is, how do you get new volunteers? Well, I think there are probably a lot of people who would like to do this kind of thing. They just haven't committed. So jump
Yeah.
off the cliff. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal. That's my suggestion.
Just start.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do it.
And what you're saying is you may be surprised at the benefits of it. As the story you're telling is there was a part of you that anticipated that it would be meaningful to you given your friend who was driving for Meals on Wheels. But it was not expected for you, the things that you wound up enjoying the most about it, which was the social interaction.
That's right.
The recipes and the cookies are extra.
No, they are extra, but I think that, you never know where you're going to find gold. And with people, there's a lot of gold in there if you just will do some digging.
That's right. And the car ride itself is car rides, I think, in general, can be a good source of conversation. Road trips.
Well, you mentioned the pandemic. So when the
Yeah.
pandemic happened, all of that the value of the social interaction really went up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these folks just weren't able to see people, and by choice, because of not
wanting to be
not
safe.
wanting to be impacted by the pandemic. But I will say one thing that was positive about the pandemic was the traffic to Boston was so much better.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
Just because there were a lot of people that were working from home, and that's not a trivial thing.
No, it's not. Driving to Boston is a bear.
It really is, and
Greg
that's
does a lot of our driving to Boston.
Yeah.
that's how I try to contribute to the organization. Is I try to take a lot of the Boston trips. So.
Oh, okay, because you're willing to do that. That's,
Sure,
I'm sure that's a gift to NEET and to the clients that need to get into one of the hospitals or medical appointments in Boston.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Greg, do you have any stories, perhaps, that might illustrate the kind of benefits you've been describing of being a NEET?
Well, I'll tell you one story, and this happened really during the pandemic. A woman was going to the doctors for something, and in the course of conversation, she revealed that she had a lot of health issues. Not only that, she was living basically with very little support network, and she had a roommate that was living with her, but she needed food. She said, I couldn't get out to get food. So I told her, I said, no problem. I said, I'll help you do that. So we took care of the appointment. And then when we were approaching her home, I said to her, I said, what I want you to do is just make a list. I'll call you tonight. You can read me what the list is, and I'll go pick up your groceries for you. So she did that, and it was about $50 worth of groceries. So I went and purchased the groceries for her, and I brought the bags in, and laid them on the counter, and I said, well, have you got everything you need? And she said, yes, thank you. Let me pay you. And I said, no, that won't be necessary. She said, you don't want any money? And I said, no, I'm good. I said, this is my contribution for you. Merry Christmas. And she started crying, and I said, it's okay. I said, I get money for driving. I said, I'm not doing this for money. It's a pittance compared to what I used to make. I said, this is for you, and I want you to feel good about, what you are and who you are.
Aww.
And so she was she was beyond grateful. And I try to leave the message with all people that please include me in your support network. If you ever need anything, you have my phone number, call me. Because I think the support network for older people who are trying to age in their own homes, which by the way, I did work in that sector, so I know how important it is for that option to exist. Yeah. And it can't exist without the support network, so I want to be part of their network.
Well, Greg, that's a wonderful story, because what it highlights is the gratification of feeling like you're actually making a significant positive impact on people's lives. And we live in a world today, I think, where people often feel as though, does it matter? Do I matter? Is there anything that really makes a difference? And what you're saying is, yes, you can make a tangible, concrete difference in somebody's life that will make them feel better. And that therefore will also make you feel clear that, yes, there is meaning, there is connection, there is love in the world, and here it is. That is an active connection that you make with people. So thank you. That was very eloquent.
And, one more point about that, Mary, is it's free to give.
It is free to give, and the returns are infinite. So, anyway, that was a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that, Greg. I appreciate it. Well, just as a follow-up on that topic, then, I'd like to ask both of you, what kinds of people do you think are a good fit, are likely to find the work enjoyable and meaningful in the way that you've just been so eloquent about, both Dori or Greg? Anything more that you want to say to that, to people who might be listening and be wondering, having heard the story and going, oh, yeah. So who's likely to be a fit?
Obviously, in my opinion, folks that have just retired, they're looking for something to do, and they can give back by doing this. And they can also stay connected within the community. Yeah. But from my standpoint, I would love to involve younger kids because of what I get out of it unexpectedly. Yeah. I think it would be a really great experience, and Dori shared the experience of her daughter.
Yes.
It's a really great thing to see that, there's an older set of the population that needs help.
Yeah.
And they would love to have personal connections with younger people, probably.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I would like to see how we could somehow get younger people involved.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I've been in contact with many colleges to try to get that population involved. College students are definitely, we had a wonderful college student this summer who worked only for a period of 4 weeks, and she loved it so much that she drove over 300 miles in the 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
The few weeks that
Wow.
she worked with us. She enjoyed it so much more than she ever thought she would. And she was an inspiration, and she'll be back at Christmas time
Oh, wonderful.
and during her spring break, and will be volunteering for us again. So that's definitely an untapped market
Yeah.
that we really need to look at. Also, stay-at-home moms and dads, that have children in school. Most of our local drives are a very short period of time. It's a 2-hour commitment.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful if they could look at giving a little bit of time, maybe once, twice, 3 times a month or so.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are those who are flexible in their work or school schedules.
Yeah.
Please, contact us. We'd love to have you. We have a software program that I mentioned earlier.
Oh, yes.
It is wonderful because what it allows a person to do, a volunteer to do, is to self-assign themselves and to look at the totality of the ride commitment. So you look at it from the time you leave your home till the time you return back
Right.
to your home. And that is a wonderful thing. So we're looking for
Yeah.
people who have an affinity for older adults, who have that kindness and compassionate and patient nature, who are just looking to give back and also to get something from it as well.
Yeah.
Because as Greg mentioned, you do get this sense of incredible warmth and caring for other human beings.
Yeah. Well, the significance of the intergenerational connection comes through in what you're saying, and that's important.
Yes.
Because there's a lot that the generations can derive from one another, and often that's an opportunity that gets wasted and neglected.
Yes.
And so here is a forum through impactful volunteer work to utilize, to build that, to let that connection flower.
Absolutely.
And I think the point that you make about your software program is that you can figure out exactly what the time commitment will be. So if people are concerned about, how will this fit in? If it's a 2-hour commitment, will it really be 2 hours? And what you're saying is, yeah, we have a software program.
Yeah, yes.
That means you really can know exactly what the time commitment will be. And so those are both significant. And yeah, it sounds like young people are, a good market for this, as well as you point out, other populations that might have a flexible schedule and could fit in and really benefit from like a 2-hour window,
Yes.
especially if it's a local
Do a local
appointment.
ride.
So,
Absolutely.
well, thank you. That's a really good description, and the market for drivers is wide open. In other words, so
I do also want to mention that we do have a mileage reimbursement.
yes, you mentioned that earlier,
yeah.
and I wanted to ask you because
Yes.
people would wonder about that kind of
Yes.
thing, and also I think people might also be thinking about their auto insurance.
Yes.
So
we offer 55 cents a mile
Right.
as a reimbursement. We also provide a supplemental insurance that rides on top of the person's auto insurance. And in addition to that, our board of directors has been very generous in my proposal to approve gas cards as a means of appreciation for the drivers.
yes.
So those people who drive a lot of miles for us, we're trying to find other ways to appreciate them. And my feeling was, especially given gas prices,
Yeah.
was that a gas card kind of helps along the way.
Oh, I'm sure that's meaningful to
obviously
people.
55
Yeah.
cents a mile isn't a lot of money, but that I was actually able to get approved as well. So our board of directors has been very, very helpful in
Wonderful.
getting our
Oh, that sounds great. I'm sure
Appreciation
your
efforts.
drivers appreciate that.
I hope so, yes.
Well, for people who might be interested in volunteering, how can they learn more or sign up? And for people who might need a ride, now that they know it's a possibility, what should they do?
So if you're a rider age 60 and over and need a ride, please call your council on aging. They will be able to send you out a registration packet and get it back to us. We'll get you into our software program and we'll take it from there. Your rides are scheduled through the Council on Aging.
Okay.
They have the services available in the Council on Aging to be able to do that. You can also call us. We're available in our Amesbury office at 978-388-7474. You can visit our website, which has both a volunteer application as well as a rider registration packet, and that's at Drive for NEET, DRIVEFOR, NEET, NEET.org.
Okay.
Or you can call your local council on aging. They can direct you to us if you're a potential volunteer.
So there's numerous ways to
There
get
are
the
numerous
information
ways, yes.
that you might have and
Yes.
to get any questions you might have answered.
Please.
So,
And I would
Please
be
call us.
happy to talk to anyone who has questions or reservations about doing this kind of thing, because
Wonderful.
it's
yeah.
yeah, I mean, sometimes it gets hairy when you're driving in Boston, but when you think that you've got somebody very valuable sitting next to you that really is depending on you, the benefits far outweigh the risks, in my
Right.
opinion.
Because it can make the difference, as to reiterate the important point that you made earlier, it can make the difference between somebody being able to stay at home
Yeah.
or wind up having to relocate somewhere less preferable. So,
And I think that the stay-at-home situation, Mary, is really important, and most people don't realize it until they've experienced it. And unfortunately, personally, I have experienced that with my mom
yeah.
within the last few years. And for younger people, they probably never think about that unless they've seen it with a grandparent or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I think it can be hard to fully imagine the total disruption of your life, the disruption of your life and the disconnection with memories and familiarity and the pleasures of having your own place and the feeling of, independence. That, I mean, older people tend to have seen that with a relative, but younger people, I think you're right, it can be hard sometimes for them to imagine something happening that feels at that age so remote. Well, time goes by.
Yeah.
We're all getting there
Right. Yes.
eventually.
Yes.
So remember, you can also ask to talk to Greg, everybody. and clearly, you'll enjoy talking to Greg, and he'll listen. So, well, I can't thank you enough. It's wonderful. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Dori?
I just want to say thank you, Mary, for
Gosh.
your assistance in getting the message out to our older adult population and to our potential volunteers. I can't thank you enough for the time that you've allotted.
Well, you're very welcome, and back at you. Thank you both for taking the time to come on the show and educate us about NEET. And also for taking time to do the work that you do, which plays a critical role in many, many people's lives. And how many miles driven? How many rides?
How many rides?
It's really impactful,
It's
in other
very
words.
impactful.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for the work that you both do to make
welcome.
our people's
welcome.
lives better and to make our community better. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Well, that's it for today's show, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening to the morning show. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. We'll see you then. Farewell, everybody.